All right, everyone. So we have made it to our fourth and final biomolecule of the lesson, talking about nucleic acids. These ones are definitely interesting, and they have a structure that is probably more familiar to you. I'm sure you guys have seen pictures of this double helix before. So at least the macromolecules, those big polymers, are more familiar to everyone. But let's back up for a second and talk about nucleic acids and where they come from. So our DNA and our RNA, these molecules we make inside our bodies. Just like with other biomolecules, we get the ingredients from the food that we eat. And we're actually eating DNA and other nucleic acids every day. When we eat other plants and other animals, we are consuming their DNA because we're eating their cells, which is kind of cool. Obviously, those molecules get broken down when we digest them, but it gives us the materials that we need to then make copies of our own DNA and RNA. So that is where these nucleic acids come from. And what are they used for? Two main roles here. One, they store and transport genetic information in cells. When we talk about DNA, chromosomes, all of those components in our bodies are made of nucleic acids. And that is where we are storing a lot of information that tells us what our cells are supposed to do, what we're supposed to look like, our genes, what type of hair color we're supposed to have, everything. They're basically the blueprints for living things, for creating living things. And then nucleic acids are also used as instructions or like recipes to tell our body how to make different proteins that we need. So those are two big roles there. What are they made of? So nucleic acids are made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus atoms. And their monomer, their most simple structure, is called a nucleotide. So nucleotides, like you can see here, have three components. They have a phosphate group, the phosphorus atom here bonded to 4 oxygens, a sugar. So this can be a few different sugars depending on what we're talking about, if it's DNA or RNA. And then over here, we've got what's called a nitrogenous base. And you can look at the word nitrogenous has nitrogen in it. You can see we've got quite a few nitrogen atoms here. So that helps give it its name, our nitrogenous base. So there are two different types of nucleic acids, two major categories that I mentioned earlier. We have something called DNA and RNA. So let's go back for a second here. Take a look at this picture. DNA, if we think about the classic shape, that double helix twisted ladder shape, that's DNA that we're talking about here. We're talking about RNA, it's like having half of the ladder. So now let's talk about what that actually means. Okay, so DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, and that name comes from what it is made of. So deoxyribo, the D part, is telling us what sugar is contained in this molecule, and the sugar is deoxyribose. Then we get to nucleic acid. That's talking about our nitrogenous bases, which are these guys. So in DNA, there are 4 different nitrogenous bases that you can have. A, T, C, and G for short. But those are adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. And as you can see here, adenine and thymine always bond with one another, and cytosine and guanine always bond to another. So this is the structure of DNA when it's unfolded and looks like a ladder, and then when we twist it, it gets that double helix shape. So that's the shape of the full molecule. The role of DNA is to store genetic information. All of the information that tells us everything about how we look and how our body is structured is contained in our DNA. And your DNA is located in the nucleus of every cell in your body. So every cell that you have, whether it's in your stomach or in your skin, each nucleus has the DNA coding for your whole body. But those cells only pay attention to the piece of your DNA that they need to do their job. So the skin cell only needs to know what the skin cell needs to do. The stomach cell only needs to know what the stomach cell needs to do. Same with the retinal cells in your eyes. They focus on, if you will, the chapter in the book of DNA that applies to that part of the body. But inside every cell in your body, every nucleus has a copy of your full DNA code. So that's the first type of nucleic acid. The second type is RNA, which you may or may not have heard of. This is ribonucleic acid. And again, that has to do with the sugar, ribose, that is in the RNA molecule. And the job of RNA is to provide instructions to make proteins. So any sort of protein in your body needs to be created with RNA. Essentially, RNA provides the recipe for making these proteins. And RNA also has these nitrogenous bases, although there's only one that's different. Instead of ATCG, we have AUCG. So there's adenine, guanine, cytosine, and uracil. So that's the only one that's different in terms of the nitrogenous bases for RNA. As you can see, the shape, like I mentioned before, is single-stranded, so you don't have that double ring of the ladder shape. It's just like one half of a DNA molecule. And the RNA is located in the cytoplasm of cells, so not concentrated within the nucleus, but floating around in the cytoplasm of our cells. So again, role of RNA is to help provide the ingredients, the instructions to make proteins, and the role of DNA is to store our genetic information, the big blueprint and code for our bodies. So that is it for today, and we will be wrapping up the lesson shortly, going over all 4 of these biomolecules once again.